Paul Hogan unmasks Linda Kozlowski divorce horrors. Paul Hogan was born on the 8th of October 1939 in the tiny outback town of Lightning Ridge, New South Wales, Australia, which is perhaps most famous for its opal-fossicking and harsh frontier attitude. Being born in the late 1930s put him in that generation that was influenced by the effects of the Great Depression and the turmoil of World War II. Life wasn't always simple, and although not much has been written about his parents or his early life, Hogan's rural Australian upbringing assisted in forming his earthy sense of humor and down-to-earth nature. These traits would later become his signature both on-screen and off. Life in a working-class environment did not have the glossy experience of a typical entertainer for Hogan. No elite education, no theater school, no Hollywood makeover in the early years. Instead, he forged his own path through toughness, humor, and force of personality. Young Hogan learned to become one of Sydney's most physically challenging and iconic occupations, that of a rigger on the Sydney Harbour Bridge. This work was demanding, needing both grit and physical strength, as riggers had to climb up and down the towering steel edifice, performing repairs and maintenance. The experience hardened him and set his feet firmly in the rough-and-tumble world of physical labor. But it also exposed him to a cross-section of people and situations that would become grist for his comedy. Perched high over the crowded harbor, Hogan was well distant from show business, but the work fashioned his sense of humor about danger and adversity, a skill that became a hallmark of his comedy. The first taste of fame for Paul Hogan came not from planning, but from a daring act of fortune. He appeared on Australia's New Faces program in 1971, a show aimed at revealing new talent. Hogan was not yet a career comedian, but his own natural wit and style of humor, which tended to be self-deprecating jokes, cheeky one-liners, and notably Australian in flavor, immediately resonated with viewers. His comedy was unique in that it was raw, unpadded, and genuinely Australian, providing a break from the frequently imported styles which had such a high profile on television. Everyone, including the judges, adored him, and Hogan soon knew that he had discovered something which would take him much further than the Harbour Bridge rigging job. His massive popularity for his comedic ability soon brought Hogan the opportunity to host his own show. The Paul Hogan Show, in which he both appeared and wrote and produced, was a TV phenomenon during the 1970s and early 1980s. The series was characterized by its sketch comedy style brimming with offbeat characters, outlandish circumstances, and satirical bite that mocked both ordinary life and Australian stereotypes. Its irreverent humor made audiences love it, and Hogan's capacity to laugh at himself charmed millions. Its popularity spread beyond Australia, finding an audience in South Africa and the UK as well, thereby solidifying Hogan's position as an international entertainer. His work was rewarded in 1973 when he received the highly esteemed TV Week Logie Award for Best New Talent, a definite recognition that his comedic star was ascending. Hogan's transition into acting started humbly. His first film appearance was in 1980, making a cameo in the Australian film Fatty Finn, a light-hearted movie that provided him with a small sampling of the film world. 5 years later, he took on a more substantial role as Lance Corporal Pat Cleary in the television miniseries Anzacs, a historical drama about Australian soldiers during World War I. This role allowed him to explore his acting range, proving that he could handle more serious material as well as comedy. By this point, Hogan had solidified himself as a favorite television personality, but the planet was ready to get its first good look at him in a huge way. In 1986, Paul Hogan became an international superstar with the film release of Crocodile Dundee. Not only did he play the title role, but he also helped pen the screenplay, writing the tale of Michael J. Crocodile Dundee, an endearing bushman with an outsized personality. The movie, directed by Peter Feynman, documented Dundee's exploits as he traversed the Australian backcountry and the streets of New York City, providing a comedic cultural conflict that audiences everywhere couldn't resist. Produced on a comparatively low budget of less than $10 million, Crocodile Dundee became a box office juggernaut, pulling in hundreds of millions of dollars at the box office. It was not merely a money-making success, but also a cultural one, establishing Australia as a force in the film industry and making Hogan a global name. The popularity of Crocodile Dundee earned Hogan awards and critical acclaim. He received the Golden Globe Award for Best Actor in a Comedy or Musical, and his script won him an Academy Award nomination as well as a BAFTA nomination. Few actors achieve such acclaim in their first major international role, but Hogan's magnetic presence and natural comedic timing made Dundee unforgettable. He had tapped into a universal archetype, the rugged, good-natured outsider who could charm anyone, and audiences responded with enthusiasm. After the huge success of the initial film, Hogan recurred in Crocodile Dundee 2 in 1988. Although the sequel was a box office hit, critics gave it mediocre reviews and felt that it did not capture the new magic of the original film. Hogan's star power still remained, though. In 1990, he starred in the Western comedy Almost an Angel, playing a petty crook who is offered a second chance at redemption. The movie was a commercial as well as critical failure. His Western comedy Lightning Jack of 1994 also did not impress the critics, but Hogan's style of humor still worked for die-hard fans. In 1996, Hogan appeared in the family movie Flipper, a remake of the old television show, as a cantankerous uncle who befriends his nephew and a friendly dolphin. Hogan received accolades despite the movie itself not doing well at the box office, making only $20 million in comparison to its budget of $25 million. Notably, in spite of its fiscal failures, the film was nominated for numerous awards, a reflection of Hogan's lasting capacity to resonate with audiences in film. He appeared in the made-for-TV film Floating Away in 1998, again playing diverse roles. Hogan revisited his most memorable role one last time in 2001 with Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles. Though the film failed to reach the level of its predecessors and was deemed the weakest of the trilogy, it signified the end of an era for Hogan and the Dundee persona that had made his career. Following Dundee's retirement, Hogan started to draw back from Hollywood and concentrate more on life beyond the spotlight. Throughout the next few years, Hogan began smaller projects, such as the Australian comedy Strange Bedfellows 2004, which is about two guys pretending to be a gay couple for money, and Charlie and Boots 2009, a road movie involving the father-son relationship. Both films did very well in Australia and brought back fans' memory about Hogan's timeless charm and comedic warmth. By 2013, while no longer appearing regularly, Hogan made a classic guest appearance on Adam Hill's Tonight, demonstrating that his wit and charm had not diminished with age. But while his professional life was full of ups and downs, Hogan's personal life was just as multifaceted. His first marriage was to Nolene Edwards, whom he married in 1958, long before he became famous as a comedian or international film star. Then, Hogan was just a young man holding blue-collar jobs in Sydney, and the marriage meant stability and family life at that stage of his life. Hogan and Edwards had 5 children together during the course of their marriage. For many years, their union appeared to outsiders as strong and enduring as they weathered Hogan's gradual rise from construction work to television comedy and eventually film stardom. However, by 1981, after more than 2 decades together, their relationship had reached a breaking point. The couple separated and finalized a divorce, which was a difficult and emotional process given their long history and the number of children involved. In spite of this, their case had a strange twist. Less than a year after the divorce, Hogan and Edwards decided to remarry, indicating that there was still love and a willingness to restore the relationship that they had before. This reunion, albeit optimistic, did not ultimately work out. In 1986, Hogan filed for divorce again, and the second divorce became notorious in Australia. It was splashed all over the headlines and was even dubbed one of the country's ugliest celebrity splits. Media headlines screamed about the monetary settlements, personal insults, and emotional damage, making something that was supposed to be a private affair an entire public spectacle. Having moved on from his rocky first marriage, Hogan again fell in love in a very different manner. While filming Crocodile Dundee in the mid-1980s, he developed a close relationship with his co-star, the American actress Linda Kozlowski. Their on-screen chemistry translated into real life, and the pair married in 1990. Unlike his long marriage to Edwards, Hogan's relationship with Kozlowski was built during his peak fame, and the two became one of the most recognizable couples in Hollywood and Australia alike. They had one child together, a son named Chance, who was born in 1998. For years, they seemed to have a healthy and loving marriage, frequently appearing at public functions together and showing a united front as Hogan's career continued. However, even this marriage ultimately hit troubles. In October 2013, after over 2 decades as a couple, Kozlowski divorced Hogan, citing irreconcilable differences. The move was said to be amicable in contrast to his previous divorce, and both parties spoke of mutual respect and consideration for their son. The divorce was granted in 2014, and it ended Hogan's second marriage. When Hogan has opted to look back on the breakup, his words expose not just the heartache of a failed marriage, but also the deep-seated emotional cost that fame, lifestyle differences, and years of shared past can exact upon two individuals who were once so much in love. Hogan conceded the divorce wasn't easy at all, and he hasn't hesitated to recount the lasting scars. It was devastating, Hogan admitted, recognizing that leaving Kozlowski was like losing a partner and a best friend. Having met in the late 1980s, when working on the film that would propel them both to global stardom, their affair was a fairy tale to everyone else. The rough-around-the-edges Aussie action hero and the beautiful American actress were the picture-perfect couple on and off-screen. But, as Hogan has described, behind the facsimile of the Hollywood persona, there were fissures that grew larger over time. Looking back at the collapse of their marriage, Hogan once commented, "Divorce is like surgery without anesthesia. You feel every cut, every tear, and it leaves scars you can't see, but you feel every single day." This powerful analogy speaks to how much the divorce impacted him. Even as he is revered for his quick wit and laid-back sense of humor, Hogan said the divorce took away his natural optimism for a while. You think you're tough. You think you can take anything. But when the person you constructed your life around walks out, it's like the ground beneath you gives way, he described. A part of the pain for Hogan was the abrupt emptiness that Linda's departure left in his daily routine. For over 20 years, we had been partners in everything, raising our son, experiencing the highs and lows of Hollywood stardom, traveling back and forth from Australia to the United States. When she departed, the silence in the house was deafening, Hogan said. I'd walk past her empty chair or see her coffee cup in the cupboard, and it was like a stab to the heart. Such comments reveal the raw human side of a man often portrayed as the larger-than-life Crocodile Dundee, reminding fans that fame and fortune do not shield anyone from personal anguish. Hogan has also been open about the difficulty of moving away from someone who shared not just his personal life, but even his career path. It's not like you can just wipe the slate clean, he said. Every film, every picture, every memory has her face in it. That wasn't something you could just tuck into a box. Their marriage had been more than a private connection. It was interwoven in the fabric of Hogan's professional life and public persona. That was what made it so much harder to move on from than it would have been for a normal couple.